Good morning, Hockenheim, and welcome to the first dynamic discipline of this beautiful Saturday morning here at FSG 2023. We are here at the Driverless Trackdrive track and are getting the first car pushing towards the starting line. What we're hearing from the officials is that Eindhoven car number 40 is not actually the first car that we would be expecting here. So this means that a good 10, 12 teams are already out of order. Looking at the queue, behind Eindhoven lined up are Barcelona and Chalmers. That means that we are expecting to see quite a few other teams later today. The list is long, it's about an entire A4 page full of it. Nevertheless, Eindhoven will be the first one of the day. They're already ready to go after having missed quite a few other disciplines in the last couple of days. This time they apparently decided to show up early. Well done, guys. Everybody's getting located behind the barrier here.
You are allowed to go.
And the go-ahead is given. Unfortunately, the car was making a quick jerking motion and then stopped right away. The officials announcing that this is a DNF for the run already. Short-lived excitement. The car was trying to make its way towards the starting line. Christian now intentionally tripping the timing beam. Maybe while the Eindhoven car is being cleared away and Barcelona is coming up to take their spot at the starting line, we can briefly talk about what it actually means to be running out of order. Yesterday afternoon we had the driverless autocross where teams could set a time. This time in inverse order, so the slowest car first and the fastest car last. Then defines the running order for this track drive. That means that there is a prescribed slot that the teams are expected to be showing up here. Since the event started at 8, the slowest cars would be expected to show up here the earliest. Clearly, since we're already about halfway through the entire order, quite a few teams missed that info or couldn't make it for some other reason. There could also be problems in scrutineering, that they are not through all the necessary safety checks yet. Running out of order does incur a penalty, but there is still a slot later for them once the fastest car of the autocross yesterday, which I believe was the Milano car, will be allowed to run. So there is still a chance that we'll be seeing quite a few more cars after the fastest in-order runner was on the track here.
And looking over at the queue, Jonas, I see another car that I presume is jumping ahead in line due to other teams not being fully ready just yet. Car number 131 from Berlin. I don't think we've seen them participate in any driverless events just yet.
Is it Berlin or is it? No, I only recall seeing the Berlin car with a driver installed, with pants fortunately, during the skid pad or the acceleration or something to that description. Behind them Tallinn is lining up. And Barcelona is sitting at the ready at the starting line.
You are allowed to start.
They're getting the official go-ahead.
And there it goes.
Careful start. And right in front of the first corner, Barcelona ran into an issue. The flashing blue lights indicating that this run is aborted.
And we're just hearing over the radio that a DNF has been confirmed for the Barcelona team. Chalmers now making their way over to the starting line.
Yeah, it's unfortunate to see the teams having to abort their runs here this quickly. Barcelona did make it the farthest today. If we're running through the list of potential runners here this quickly, I think this event will be closing a lot earlier than what we would be expecting otherwise.
And the teams only get one attempt at this particular discipline, right, Jonas?
If my memory serves me right, yes. It is similar to the manual endurance in this way. A couple of things are different, of course. In the manual endurance, we would be expecting a driver change and an overall longer, more complicated track.
Yes, I believe in the manual endurance, cars have to do 18 laps. And here at the driverless track drive, they have to do a total of 10 laps.
Speaking of laps, in theory we'll be doing laps here on the Hockenheim infield until 11 o'clock today. That's the end time officially for the track drive. After that we will be seeing a couple of other events. The track drive track will be torn down. And instead we will be seeing the full autocross track, first being driven by the historic combustion cars that we are hosting here at FSG this year as a commemorative token to the last year that we're seeing combustion cars at FSG. They are basically clearing the track for an hour and 15 minutes until 2 o'clock before the manual autocross of this year's competing teams will be open from 2 to 7 tonight. Chalmers are getting their car set up here. We have a couple of officials lurking with them. One very cautiously looking at a stopwatch. The teams, of course, just in all the other driverless disciplines have a set time limit that they're allotted in order to ready their car to set off.
The orange lights are on, so they should be ready to go.
That's a good sign. Team members are retreating behind the barriers. We've already seen a few driverless cars yesterday flirting with the barriers a bit too much.
Go signal is given. And it sets off. Aggressive over the start line, making it well through the first corner, staying nicely between the lines. Very clean through the first half of the lap.
Collecting a couple of cones in front of the grandstand. I think that's the group of the cones now. We've had one during the autocross lap yesterday that was getting hit by pretty much every team making it past. I see one blue cone is lodged under the right-hand side of the car, being dragged along for eternity, I guess.
But the car is still doing pretty well despite that little obstacle. And there it is, the cone has escaped. but it does now seem to be lying in the middle of the track. Jonas, do you think that might cause any issues with the lidar system of the vehicle?
It might not. We've in the past seen cars either completely ignoring cones that are in the middle of the track. We've also seen some taking them as hints to completely veer off the track, which usually results in an off course and then immediately an emergency button press by the ASR up here, which remotely kills the car.
We see Chalmers has followed the first example, completely ignoring the track on the road. And I don't see whether it's jammed under the car again. Did it just get knocked off to the side?
No, there's a new cone that's stuck underneath.
But still, the car doing very well. 3 laps down, 7 laps to go. Going at a relatively steady pace, I think, Jonas. Not really slowing down or speeding up lap to lap.
No, I was thinking about some allegory with slow and steady wins the race, but this is actually a pretty good pace. It's very consistent. Actually, the time, the lap time here, around about the 30-second mark, is quite a bit faster than the usual lap pace that we saw during the autocross yesterday.
Yes, I think only Milan managed to get down into the 30 seconds yesterday.
Indeed. I also see that the cone has traveled from underneath the car all the way to behind the rear wheel and is now jammed between the rear suspension and the radiator. Not sure if the car is going fast enough that would cause any thermal issues down the road.
I guess it's also... And the cone escapes from under the car in more or less the same place as the previous cone did as well. Not causing any issues for the Chalmers vehicle though, still making its way nicely around the track.
Taking a bit of a peek here at the autocross times from yesterday, and indeed only Milano managed to set a 30-something time in their second run. We didn't actually see a performance from Chalmers at the autocross yesterday. If I recall correctly, they had some trouble getting started. They were definitely present with us in the queue towards the end of the autocross event. So it's good to see that they're putting on such a steady, stable performance here.
What are the lap times looking like for the Chalmers car, Jonas? Is it as consistent lap over lap as you'd expect an autonomous vehicle to be?
They are actually remarkably consistent. The last 6 laps have all been a 30.9 to a 30.8.
So definitely steady, but I wouldn't say slow by any means of the imagination.
Definitely not slow. And it's also interesting to see that the first 2 laps were slightly slower. There was definitely a trend to speed up from a 34.8 down now to 30.8. The car seems definitely to have rearranged the track to its favor now and is just keeping on trucking. I think this is actually already the last lap. So now we're coming up to the point where we are anxiously going to await the car stopping after the finish line by itself.
It has to stop within 30 meters of the finish line. Nicely does so within the track lines. And there is the blue light.
That's a valid run for the track drive. Chalmers used their one opportunity to make this work. Big round of applause from the grandstands here. Congratulations to the team.
Yes, applause absolutely deserved.
Overall, the entire run took 312 seconds. That's the purple time of the day so far. Of course, that time will still be bolstered by any penalties coming from cones. I believe the officials are taking a bit of a tally now, resetting the cones into their appropriate boxes as well.
And we now see Fast Tube from Berlin making their way over to the starting line. So the Berlin car is ready to go.
A few last cone positions being sorted out. Everybody's retreating to their post.
So first time we're seeing the Berlin car driverless on the track. Let's see what they can show us. I can already see quite a lot with their famous transparent chassis panels. You can see all the way through the car indeed. But the go signal has been given and the car sets off.
Very careful and measured start coming up to the first corner. No problem.
Oh, picking up a couple of cones on the exit there.
All string.
But
I've lost count, but I think that's at least 5 or 6. Veering to the infield. Unfortunately, that's a DNF for Berlin. They managed 2 corners. A round of applause absolutely deserved.
Well, unfortunate ending for Berlin, but still the second best performance we've seen today. And as the Berlin team members go to retrieve their car and dig out some cones from under the front wing, we see Tallinn now making their way over to the starting line.
Tallinn rolling up to the starting line. We did see them twice yesterday afternoon at the autocross track in exactly the same spot, but they did have quite some trouble getting the car to go down the track. So I'm hoping for them that they can do better during their one track drive attempt.
And looking over at the queue in the meanwhile, it is filling up nicely. I see 6 cars in the queue and 2 more in the preparation area.
Yeah, going by the colors, I'm seeing Hamburg, Budapest, Ulm, and more colors that I can't quite place with other cars.
I think I might see Dresden. Looking forward, of course, to seeing I think the 1 or 2 cars that have been able to finish every driverless event so far, Napoli and Milano. But I'm sure we'll be able to tell by the cheers from the grandstands when the Napoli car makes its way here. Some final checks being made on the Tallinn car. Can hear the pneumatic system engaging. The orange lights are on.
And you are allowed to start. 30 seconds running now.
Go signal has been given.
Slight hesitation and wobble at the starting line. Car was briefly headed towards the timing equipment again. And the solid blue light indicates that the car thinks that it has already made the 10 laps that it was supposed to do here. So the car itself has finished its run.
And hearing over the radio now that there is a DNF confirmed for car number 121. One, two, four. As the Tallinn car is being retreated, some cones also being retrieved from under the vehicle. The car from Hamburg, number 78, is ready at the start line.
I took a quick sneak peek at the running order here. Car number 78 is already the 4th to last car in the official running order that was set by the officials here. So I haven't counted all the cars that are out of order, but my guess would be that it's somewhere in the order of about 20. We're skipping through the normal list here at a rapid pace. The only other teams that we are expecting here after Hamburg running in the normal queue are car number 33. My guess is that's Zürich, car number 120 and 322. Every car that runs afterwards is by default running out of order and is therefore already carrying a time penalty as a result.
Some final checks being done on the Hamburg car. Tractive system is engaged and the orange lights are on. Go signal is given and the car sets off. Aggressive over the start line, slowing down nicely for the first corner, staying neatly between the lines. A little jerky and a little hesitant in the left-hander there, but still staying nicely within the line, slowing down just in time.
And now it's veering off track, collecting a number of cones in the process. And the flashing blue is unfortunately bad news for Hamburg. The run is aborted in the first lap.
Yes, unfortunately not quite coping with the slalom section there. That is a DNF for Hamburg. And now we see, well, what I thought would be car 33 making its way over to the start line, but they decided to turn around and go back to the preparation area. So instead, we are seeing another car make its way forward. Jonas, could you make out from here what car that is?
Judging by the mostly black appearance, I think that's Deggendorf coming our way.
I think it might be. I think I'm seeing that distinctive green end plate on the rear wing.
That also means that the running order is entirely in shambles now. Car number 44 was meant to run quite a bit earlier than some of the other runners that we've seen here already. I guess with Zürich pulling out, we are now into the out-of-order running of cars.
In this event, Jonas, it's only part of the Driverless Cup, right? It is not part of the standard, quote-unquote, standard electric vehicle competition or combustion vehicle competition.
Yes, exactly. We are seeing cars here at the autocross and the track drive that are participating in the Driverless Cup. However, to make it ever so slightly more complicated, cars that are carrying anything but a 3 in front of their number are partaking in both either the combustion or electric cup and the driverless cup. 300 cars are partaking in the driverless cup only. However, even if the car is partaking in the combustion or electric cup, these points that they're scoring here do not count towards the combustion or electric score.
Deggendorf car is ready to go on the start line. Go signal is given.
Flashing orange lights indicating that the car is thinking about heading off. Autonomous system is engaged.
Yes, but the 30 seconds that they have between the go signal being given and having to set off are running out. And unfortunately, we're seeing flashing blue lights.
That means that this run is aborted for Deggendorf. I expect the DNF momentarily.
Das war vorher noch ein anderes Auto, was am Start stehen geblieben ist. Weißt du noch, welches das war?
Yes, we're now hearing the confirmation of the DNF for car number 44. And as Fast Forest is retreating from the start line, the next vehicle is already approaching. It is car number 90 from Politecnico di Milano.
I personally have high hopes for the Milano car. They were the fastest here at the autocross yesterday.
Yes, I think they still had clipped a few cones here and there. At the very least, the one cone that is more or less furthest from our position here, that every team seemed to like taking along on the journey. But even with those adjustments, I think Milano was comfortably the fastest car yesterday.
And I was wrong, actually, saying earlier that we're into the out-of-order running of cars. Deggendorf also managed to set a very competitive time, 39.4 in their fastest run. And since Milano was the fastest and is now coming after them, the running order is just nearing its very end.
And the running order is usually the reverse finishing order from the autocross, right, Jonas?
Indeed, and this is also a good time to mention that well, we do try to provide as much useful information as we can. Just like with me claiming that we're into the out-of-order running of cars. Any information that we provide is without any warranties towards any official results or claims thereof. So this is just a small disclaimer from our side.
The orange lights are engaged. Car is ready to go. Go signal is given. The 30-second window has started. And the car sets off. Already looking very rapid through the first couple of corners. Very neat as well, staying nicely between the lines. Even some power slides through the slalom.
Collecting a lot of cones in the process, but it managed to get its way back onto the track.
Yes, going off track with a couple of wheels there, but not all four, which means it's allowed to continue.
Big spin though, right in front of the audience here, and yeah, an aborted run, a DNF for Milano. That's a big shame.
A very flamboyant finish, at the very least.
Definitely, they were going for one of the faster times. So far, though, only Chalmers has been able to set a full gamut of 10 laps here.
Yes, and I see the next car making its way over already. Can't quite make out the car number, but I see...
This is Budapest looking at the front, the black and white livery, very noticeable.
I was on the lookout for a mustache, but I think it's a different driverless driver in the vehicle today. Or maybe someone gave him a shave in the night. And looking over at the queue, we see that Lisbon has now joined the queue as well, along with Too Fast. And I can't quite make out who it is behind them. Let me take a closer look.
I think that's car number 42, Ulm, and right behind them, Lisboa is lining up as well.
The marshals are on track positioning some final cones. The Milan car close to being retrieved from the track.
We did see the Budapest car here yesterday at the autocross for the driverless cars as well. The board is showing me one DNF run, but I think they actually tried twice and just weren't able to get the car ready in time.
I think so, and I remember on their first run they got tantalizingly close to finishing, but the car decided to veer off to the left at the very end of the track.
Yeah, literally right in front of the little stand that we're on here with all the officials and the team member controlling the car. That's always really heartbreaking to see, especially when it happens in the last corner.
But nevertheless, it was a promising performance, so let's see how they do now. Go signal is given and the car sets off rapidly over the starting line, doing well through the first corner.
If my memory of yesterday serves me right, this is already a much cleaner performance from Budapest than what we saw at the autocross yesterday. I think at this stage they had already clipped a number of more cones than they do so far. They're slowing down for the tightest of corners that we have on the track here, pushing along a blue cone for quite a while there.
It seems the cars there slow down intentionally just so they can hit that one cone.
The corner where they struggled yesterday is passed successfully. The first lap is completed. Good times, 43 seconds.
Second lap looking very similar to the first so far. I'm even hearing very similar throttle input. Slowing down once again on the back corner, but finding its way around nicely.
The one blue cone that they deposited right in front of the FSG forum does not seem to phase the track recognition of the car.
And the second lap is complete. We're hitting one yellow cone just after the start line and another yellow and blue cone on the first right-hander, but still going along very nicely. Still good through the slalom section. Car not seeming to have any problems.
No, and it's even going slightly faster than on the first go-around.
Jumping a little bit on the bump in the track. And completing its third lap successfully. Staying very close to the cones on the first right-hand corner, but not touching any of them this time around. Feels like the throttle is becoming a little bit more binary, it's a little bit more jumpy.
Yeah, that might be, but 2 points make a line to me. The last two laps were almost or very close to each other. Lap times, 41.2, I think is roughly the pace that we'll be seeing in the next few laps.
And it seems just like the Chalmers car. The Budapest car has moved all the cones that were troubling it out of the way and is now making its way through the laps, the rest of the laps very cleanly.
Yeah, well, Budapest is lapping about 11 seconds slower than what we saw from Chalmers earlier. What we also saw earlier is that's already a big achievement to make it around this track at all. Quite a number of teams already attempting, not managing to do so, so this is the second car that has completed the first lap of the track drive today.
And is completing the rest of them very well as well.
We're halfway through on lap 6 right now. This would normally be the point where during the manual endurance there would be a driver change. But of course, if there is nothing to change, then you can just keep going. Every time the Budapest car slows down for that tight far corner from us, I do get a little bit of a heart attack. As the laps progress, I do feel more and more with the teams. Just hope that they are able to finish this drive.
Well, the car certainly looks to be setting very consistent times. Jonas, does the timing confirm that?
Absolutely, we're now dipping into the 41 ones. 10th faster than the trend that I projected earlier. It's remarkable to see how consistent both Budapest and Chalmers were in their runs once the car had rearranged the track to its liking. Would be interesting to see a manual vehicle on this exact same track to see how consistent a human driver can be. But unfortunately that benefit is only given to us with the acceleration and skid pad of the driverless cars.
And the Budapest car felt a little bit slower through that far corner and straight in front of the large stand on this lap, but still continuing along.
Well, your feelings deceive you. 41.1 it is.
You can hear some relieved laughs from the audience. It seems they also grow a little bit concerned every time the car slows down in that far corner, Jonas.
The reason for that is that this was the last lap. Solid blue lights. This is a successful run for Budapest, the second one of the day. Congratulations to everyone. That round of applause is very well deserved.
Yes, an explosion of cheer from the audience. Fantastic job, Budapest. Second finisher of the day.
The overall time is a solid 413 seconds. It's about 100 seconds slower than what Chalmers managed to do.
But considerably faster than a few of the other teams we saw today. So I'm sure Budapest will still be extremely happy with their result.
Absolutely. Now making its way to the starting line is car number 31 from Too Fast, Munich.
This car set the fastest driverless acceleration time yesterday, I believe, 3.7.
We did see an attempt from Munich yesterday during the driverless autocross. But if the timing screen is anything to go by, then they did not manage to appropriately finish that run. They did set a time of 35.16. But if my memory serves me right, they had issues with the car appropriately finishing the run once they had crossed the finish line.
Yes, the orange light stayed flashing and the solid blue light did not come on of its own volition. So they unfortunately had to abort the run manually. Hopefully no such troubles today. Final preparations being done. Final checks being done on the Munich car. Tractive system is engaged. And the orange lights are on. And the official was checking his stopwatch. They have fit within the 2-minute window and will be given the go signal momentarily. Go signal is given, and the car sets off. A little bit wiggly from the starting line, but managing it through the first corner well.
It's definitely a very vigorous approach.
Looking very aggressive, a lot of throttle adjustments, a lot of steering adjustments, but it's working for them so far.
Tight corner with those two cones that I predicted this morning would be hit the most, being collected underneath the car, by the sounds of it anyway. One flying out now in the final corners. One is still trapped underneath the underbody. Fortunately, it looks like... No, I spoke too soon. The car managed to set off again. Briefly looked like it was going to stop after the first lap by itself.
Oh, it's just playing a little prank on us.
And then in the second turn...
Oh, wow.
There's a definitive off-course from the Munich car. Now it's going on a rampage, collecting what I can only describe as a mass of cones under the car, and the team members are aborting the run in favor of not damaging the car for the other disciplines for the manual cup later today and tomorrow.
That was still a very impressive recovery, having driven completely off track and with the track now behind it, for the car to know to turn around fully and return to it. Unfortunately, it seemed to have picked up a bit of a temper tantrum while off track, but still, very impressive performance from Too Fast.
They also set a pretty competitive time in the first lap, only about 0.6 seconds off the first lap time from Chalmers.
I could have sworn it looked faster than Chalmers.
Well, it wasn't.
I guess that's why you always say, Jonas, that steady and well, not slow, but steady and consistent. And of course, there is that old adage that if the driving you're doing looks slow from outside, it's probably going much quicker than you think it is. Ulm now doing their final checks.
At the starting line, Munich is still digging out a very large number of cones from underneath the car. It will also take a little bit of time to reset the damage that they've done to the track setup, replacing all the cones into the proper boxes. But once that process is complete, Ulm will be given the signal to ready the car fully, and I'm sure we'll see them run as well.
And it does seem that the morning rush here at the DV Trackdrive is slowing down just a little bit. I see there are still two cars in the queue after Ulm. We have the car from the University of Lisbon, and behind them the car from the University of Valencia. And the contestant from AMZ, car number 33, is still over in the preparation area. Hopefully we'll be able to see them soon as well. And I believe that is all we can see on the track for now. So hopefully more teams will be making their way over here in the coming... How long do we have left, Jonas?
We have until 11 today, so it's just under 2 hours time remaining, 1 hour and 54.
Have you seen any updates on the state of the Karlsruhe car, Jonas? Do you think there is a chance of us seeing them today after their unfortunate bump into the tire wall yesterday at the autocross?
The pictures that I've seen so far are only of damage, not of the repairs yet. I have no idea, unfortunately. There was quite some damage to the front wing and the impact attenuator underneath the, well, also crumpled nose cone. So who knows if they can fix that in time.
In the meanwhile, Ulm has been giving the go signal. Car was deliberating for a second there whether to start or not, but has decided to go. Bit of a tentative start. Slowly feeling its way around the circuit, going through the first corner.
Fahrgeschwindigkeit flattern sie nicht großartig, würde ich sagen. Bitte? Bei der Fahrgeschwindigkeit flattern sie nicht großartig. Ja, jetzt will ich nur das kurze beschleunigen, nur, aber... Ich meine, solange sie nicht verlieren? Nee, da bleibt alles dran. Im nächsten wäre es nur ein bisschen stressig.
No troubles for the Ulm car so far. Let's see what it does at that far corner. Not slowing down there at all, but yes, clipping those favorite blue cones. Taking them along for a bit of a ride and now depositing them a little bit further down the track at that chicane in front of the FSG Forum. Let's see when it comes around for a second time if that'll cause any trouble for the vehicle. Hopefully not, as it is now approaching the start line again, depositing another cone in the final corners. But gently and steadily making its way through the first lap and continuing on. Is there an efficiency score for the DV track drive, Jonas?
No, I think that would be rather pointless, especially with slower laps like these here. But as we've seen earlier again and already alluded to, being able to get the car going in the right direction is already quite the achievement.
Unfortunately, the car is struggling in the far corner there. I think the two cones it picked up in the past have now left a window for it that the thought was the continuation of the track. And so it went straight towards the tribune. So unfortunately, that is a DNF for car number 42 from Ulm, but still a very solid effort from them.
Yeah, it's another case of the cars making it ever closer to the tire barriers that mark the boundaries of the infield here. There was another car that had issues in that corner and was getting very close and almost but not quite touching the barriers in that spot yesterday. I forget who it was, but we've also had two incidents here over on the starting line with Aachen and of course KIT yesterday.
And you can hear now the unmistakable cheers from the grandstands as the car number 50 from Lisbon makes its way over to the starting line. The orange lights are on, the tractive system is engaged. We're about to see Lisbon's attempt at the DV track drive.
Okay, then you can get it started. 30 seconds are running.
Go signal is given. And the car sets off.
Taking the first corner very wide.
Doing well so far.
Slowing down for the tight corner.
And clipping the one cone that every other team has also clipped. I think we should give that cone a name, Jonas. Let me know when you come up with a good one.
I'll go with Steve.
No trouble
to the finish of the first lap.
No trouble with any other cones, and starting the second lap just as well as the first one.
It's a very steady pace now. Budapest was lapping slightly faster than Lisboa. This looks like a solid third place for now.
No cones touched on the second lap as far as I could see. Seems to be taking a very similar line to the first two laps on this third one, which is a good thing. That is a very clean line, one that is clearly working very well. Three laps down, 7 laps to go. And there's not really a lot for us to commentate on here, Jonas. The car is going very stable, not clipping any cones, not having any trouble at all. So while it might be a little bit boring for us in terms of commentating, it is a fantastic result for the team, and I'm sure exactly what they want to see.
No, it's definitely a case of no news from the Western Front. A very steady pace, around about 45 seconds. Steady performance. That's what it's all about at Driverless. Similar to what the manual cars are having to exhibit during the manual endurance. Just keeping up the pace.
And we've reached the halfway point. 5 more laps to go. 45 seconds again on that last lap. Also very consistent times, right, Jonas?
Yeah, once the car has found its bearings, once everybody has tipped over Steve, the cars are definitely exhibiting a very consistent performance. I'm still getting a heart attack every time they slow down for that tight corner in front of the grandstand here.
believe this will be the second to last lap, right, Jonas?
Indeed, this is lap 9. Very consistent pace of around 45.2 to 45.0 seconds.
Navigating the far corner nicely, just as it had done for the previous 8 laps. And now starting its final lap. Still very consistent times, a 45.08. Do you think the team set target paces for their car, Jonas, or does the car just try to go as fast as it can?
Yeah, it's very well possible, especially since the sound of the car is very consistent on the straight sections. I think what they've done is just set a speed limit that the car doesn't exceed. And then, of course, it needs to be able to slow down for the slower turns by its own volition. We're in the last couple of turns now. On the start and finish straight. Cross the line. Stops by itself.
Solid blue.
That's what we like to see. Huge cheer, deservedly so. Lisboa has managed to complete the track drive as the 3rd car of the day.
Yes, fantastic job, Lisbon. And there come the cheers from the stands. And as the Lisbon car is being prepared to be retrieved from the track, we have another team from the south of Europe, from TU Valencia, making their way to the start line. The car from Valencia revving up their engine, and the orange light is on. This is a car that struggled a little bit in the driverless skid pad event. It was very good at going in a straight line through the skid pad turns. Don't quite remember how they did on the autocross, but hoping to see a good performance from them here at the track drive. Unfortunately, the car veering a little bit to the left over the start line, knocking over a couple of cones, thankfully avoiding the timing equipment. But unfortunately, that is a DNF for car 395 from Valencia. Some cones being retrieved from under the Valéncia car, and we see that the next vehicle in line is car number 33 from Zürich. They've made their way back into the queue and should be the next car attempting the track drive.
We have the car from Zurich lining up. I was actually just in the grandstands having a look at that one super tight corner over there, and it really is super tight. I'm actually quite impressed to see how many autonomous cars manage to take the turn, even though they take a few cones with them. They still manage it. That's quite impressive. And even more impressive is the lap after. There are some cones missing, and then still they manage to complete the track.
I think it was one car that struggled after they had removed a couple of those cones. I think it was Ulm that decided to go straight on. But yes, indeed, very impressive that a lot of the cars, even after they remove that bit of the virtual track wall, still managed to find their way around it.
Yeah, indeed, the Ulm guys had a close encounter with the wall, didn't touch it. The team members of Ulm were very happy with their safety officer killing or at least shutting down the car in time.
And as AMZ does their final checks, we see car number 59 from Dresden in the queue, and right behind them, car number 322 from Napoli. In the meanwhile, the orange lights are on the AMZ car.
Ready to go? 30 seconds running from now.
Go signal is given. 30 seconds have started. A little bit of a jerky start, but going forward successfully, navigating the first corner a little bit jerkily again, and the car slowing down now, stopping on the track. Seems to be collecting its bearings. And unfortunately, we see a blue flashing light.
Yeah, it seems like they missed that one corner. The car noticed that it was missing the corner, slowed down, but still hit the cone, and now the cone is kind of stuck on the front wing, and the car decided not to continue, and eventually indeed they shut down the car. It's a shame, of course. They only get one shot at track drive here. It's similar to the endurance with the manual cars. You have one shot. If it doesn't work out, no points given. Although I do think there are some points given per lap that you drive. I'm not 100% sure, but I remember some kind of rule about that. It would be cool to see one of the manual cars drive here as well. I don't know if that's possible, because I'm really curious to see how a proper driver or a human driver would tackle that really tight corner. I almost feel like that you need to drift a little bit in order to catch it, because some of the cars, their turning circle is, I think, too big for that kind of corner. So yeah, it would be really interesting to see how a manual driver, a real human driver, would tackle this corner. Unfortunately though, after 11 o'clock, when the track drive ends, the track will be cleared, and we will have the complete autocross track being rebuilt, and then I think at a 1:45 or something, the historic autocross will start. So confirmation, indeed they do get points per driven lap. So even if you do 3 laps, that's still quite a performance. You do still get quite some points, even though you didn't completely finish it. I think that's a very reasonable way here for the driverless track drive.
Hey, Matti, you say you'd be curious to see how a human driver would tackle that tight corner at the other end of the track there. You have driven quite a few Formula Student cars in your day. How would you tackle a corner like that?
It's a really tricky corner. And you know why? Because you do enter the corner already while turning. So you need to do some magic there to get the car stopped first and then even get it turned. Now, it can also play in your advantage. If you can manage to get a little bit of oversteer during your braking zone, you can actually get it to slide a bit in that corner and take a really quick exit. Depends, of course, on what car you drive. Certainly with combustion cars, I think that would be a very valid approach. Some of the electric cars, they can rotate very quickly with their yaw rate control, so that might also work. But yeah, super interesting corner.
As we now see car 59 from Dresden, Elbflow race, approaching the start line. Final checks being done, but the team members are looking for an official to give them the final confirmation. See the official making his way over to the car now. Matti, maybe a little question about your experience as a driver. We saw that the fastest driverless car so far around this track was Chalmers with mid 30 seconds time. How quickly do you think a human driver would be able to navigate this track?
Very tricky to say. The Chalmers car was really quick. I think it was very impressive for a driverless car, but I do think that a manual car driven by a driver would be quicker on this track. I mean, this is just speculating and guessing, but I wouldn't be surprised if a manual driver could go 5 seconds quicker than the Chalmers car. You do see the driverless cars, they take some interesting lines, they take quite some margin on the inside, something that a human driver would not do as much, and they take it a lot tighter on the exit. So when they hit cones, it's usually the outside cones.
Well, let's see how quickly Dresden can go around. Go signal is given. Car starts off, unfortunately, a bit to the right and hit the timing beacon. And the ASR gives the stop signal as the car was about to go over the track again.
Yeah, again, timing equipment being killed or destroyed by a driverless car. I don't think it's too bad. It's only one of the parts, but you never know what the damage is.
No, and it seems like it's just tipped over. It wasn't a particularly hard impact, so hopefully no trouble for the timing people. I see they're already bringing out a spare. Looks like they were ready for this occasion.
And the Dresden team actually kept their car running for quite a bit when it was off track. Maybe they were hoping to rejoin the track, like the Munich car almost did. I was surprised to see that it found its way back, but then it went into rampage mode and eventually had to stop the car as well. So the Dresden team will pick up their car again and unfortunately that's track drive for them.
Indeed, a DNF for car number 59, and I think we see one last contender for now in the queue, the combustion car from Napoli. I'm sure we're about to hear some very loud cheers from the grandstands. And I think that's been the timing equipment clipped at least once at every single driverless event this year, Matti. A perfect 4 out of 4.
Yeah, indeed, there are some rumors about even awards being given about timekeeping, destroying or hitting, or yeah, it's very consistent. There's always at least one driverless car that hits it.
I think it's a different car every time.
So far it is, yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like meanwhile the timekeeping guys and girls are very well prepared, and already timekeeping is being restored. We barely even noticed it. It's like a pit stop in Formula 1. That's how quick they are. So we are halfway through the session. We started around 8. I don't think we saw the first car at 8. And I think we had most of the cars already. As Igor mentioned, there's one combustion driver still waiting, the Napoli car. I don't know if we are expecting even more cars. Maybe we can check the timing to confirm that.
Yes, I'm just trying to check with one of the track marshals here what the order of the track drive is. And I'm seeing quite a few cars that do not have an order assigned to them because they did not participate in the autocross yesterday, or at the very least did not complete a valid run in the autocross yesterday. But just looking at the names here of the cars that we have seen running, or at least in the queue to run for driverless events, I would hope to still see car number 26 from Stuttgart, 63 from Trondheim, 110 from Augsburg, and who else do we have here? That we have.
I think we didn't see Aachen yet.
Car number 99 from Aachen. And car number 120 from Karlsruhe. Of course, they had that impact with the tire wall yesterday. So I think it's a question of whether they will be able to repair the car in time for driverless, or choose to take a little more time and set up the car a little bit better for the driven driver yes events later on.
Yeah, of course, electric teams can choose to participate also in the Driverless Cup, and the track drive is part of the Driverless Cup. So the Karlsruhe team could decide to give up their dreams in the Driverless Cup and focus on the electric events. And this afternoon we do have the manual autocross, and so if they can get their car ready by then they can definitely be still a good contender for the electric overall. But who knows? They might be ready and appear here on track drive. We still have 1 and a half hour left.
Well, hoping to see them make an appearance. They were very impressive on the driverless skid pad. They set the record time, I believe, of 5.0, faster even than their driven entry. So Yes, hopefully we'll be able to see them on the track drive as well. It's a very impressive car that they have built, and it would be a shame not to see it participate.
So as a midway update, I think you can also see it on the screens. Best track drive so far was from Chalmers with an impressive 312 seconds in total. They consistently were lapping in the 30-31 seconds. Super impressive. Second best was the car from Budapest. They had a 413 seconds in total, were consistently lapping 41 seconds. Closely followed by the Lisbon car, who was doing 45 laps consistently. 45 seconds laps, I mean with that. And in total they had 450 seconds. So those are the three cars that completed the track drive completely. And then we have some cars like Ulm and TU Fast did one lap, so they also get some points for that.
Thank you for checking the timings, Matti, giving us that update. And now we see car 322 making its way over to the start line, finally.
So drivers getting out of the car to make it really driverless. One of the engineers is anxiously looking at the laptop, making sure all the driverless systems are okay and active. We have the safety officer preparing the car, making sure it can start. And now one of the engineers is actually acting as a laptop stand as we speak, so that the other engineer can focus on the content on the screen.
Not a very glamorous job, but a very important one.
If you're only with 4 people in dynamic area, you need to divide the tasks and conquer. I think it was also the Napoli car on skid pad that kind of spun out and was heading towards the timekeeping equipment. Luckily the safety officer, the man with the button, managed to shut down the car in time, and there was still half a meter of margin. So yeah, good job to him, not destroying the timekeeping equipment on the skid pad. It must be a really tough job to be the man behind the button, because you need to make the decision whether to stop your car and, you know, give up the run. And they're not always easy to make that decision. And of course you need to be quick in order to save your car, but you do want to yeah, give the opportunity to your system to complete the lap.
Yes, I think in a lot of cases you see it's obvious whether the car is going off track, but there are indeed some of those marginal calls that need to be made, and that is indeed a big responsibility for the ASR.
ASR, that's the word I've been looking for all weekend. I think it stands for Autonomous System Responsible.
I believe so. Can you come up with a more fun interpretation?
Challenge accepted.
The checks seem to be taking a little bit too long, but are now completed, and the car is ready to go. And I believe this might be the last time we are hearing a combustion car do the driverless track drive. as Valéncia has already participated, and Napoli was the only other car that made it through scrutineering. So, let's see how it goes.
It barely stalled there, just managed to get it going. It's taking the first few corners cautiously, but it does accelerate on the straights. That's nice to see.
Staying neatly between the lines, doing well through the little slalom bit.
Will it follow my advice on how to take this corner? We'll have a look. Takes Steve the cone with him.
And Daisy the second cone as well.
There's one cone stuck underneath the front wing. Hopefully it doesn't affect their performance too much. Of course, the danger is that at some point you start lifting your front tires and you cannot steer anymore. Let's hope for them that they can drop the cone somewhere. But so far they're dragging it along.
Nice. Well, it's not necessarily jammed under the car, it's more just pressed flat against the front of it and it's just being pushed along.
But despite that, they are doing a very good job. They're already on their second lap.
Let's see how they do with that little gap they've created. Navigate it nicely and deposit the second cone very close to where they picked it up originally.
If they can get it up right now and in the right position, it won't count.
Second lap done nicely, going on to the third. I think that's around 48 seconds we're seeing now, Matti, on the timing.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good time. If they can speed up a little bit, they're right up there with Budapest and the other team. I really like that they don't have this constant velocity approach. They really slow down for the corners and accelerate on the straight. So definitely their driverless intelligence is doing quite some work.
It's probably a little bit more difficult to maintain a constant velocity, a constant throttle input in a combustion car, right, as opposed to an electric one?
In a way, on the other hand, you do have the kind of like the natural speed of the combustion car, so in some way it might actually be easier to maintain a constant velocity, or at least limit it if you just keep it in the first gear.
Going on to lap 4 now, staying very nicely between the lines. Except for those two cones in the tight right-hander, no other cones touched as far as I can tell. So a very good run from Napoli thus far.
Struggling for a moment there, but it found its way back. I think these combustion cars, they have a bit more steering lock. They can steer a bit more with their tires, which is very advantageous on this track, I think.
Yes, indeed, some very tight corners here.
Yeah, it does in front of us. It does struggle a little bit to take this straight, giving like blips of throttle. I feel like on the other parts it's going a lot smoother. But across start finish, it's struggling a little bit.
Could there be a rev or a speed limit on the car, and it's just constantly bumping against it?
Yeah, that, or it's constantly updating its state estimation, thinking that the straight is maybe not as long as it is. I don't know the details, of course. We might ask the engineers after this run, but at the moment they are very tensely looking at their car, which is so far doing a really good job. They're also very clean, barely any cones. They just hit Steve and Daisy and that's it.
No, so very consistent times, just like the other teams that managed to do multiple laps. I think within a second of each other, all of the laps performed so far.
Yeah, I think driverless drivers are way more consistent than the human ones. I'm surprised to see that many of the driverless cars, they do their first lap at a certain speed, but they kind of maintain that speed. They don't really accelerate that much afterwards. So maybe they don't really map the track as much as we think they do.
Or maybe it's just a more cautious approach from the teams, given what we've seen with driverless performance so far. Just finishing is already a very difficult task, so making sure you do that is more important than how quickly you finish.
Meanwhile, I think this is their 8th or 10th lap. 8th or 9th lap. So approaching the end. So far, really good performance by the Napoli team. Two more laps for the Napoli team.
Feels a little bit like the throttle is sounding a little bit more jumpy than we heard before on the straights, but still the car not having any trouble.
No drama in the tight hairpin. They completed 8 laps, and then eventually it went wrong in the tight one. Great round of applause though for the Napoli team. They did an amazing job, and they will get quite some points actually for completing 8 laps. And that would make them a provisional 4th in the track drive.
And appears to be, unfortunately, another instance of the commentator's curse. Just as I said that the car was having no trouble at all, it went off the track. So I think we will try to minimize the amount of times we praise the cars going forward. Of course, we do want to commend them on their performance as it's happening as well. So it's all about finding a balance.
Yeah, but it's such a tricky corner there, and the moment you start clearing those cones, it becomes so difficult to still see as a driverless car where you need to go. So I'm not entirely surprised that if something goes wrong, it's there. But yeah, great performance by the Napoli team, although they did not entirely complete it. Meanwhile, we have Augsburg lining up, preparing themselves for the track drive event. Augsburg, of course, also one of the driverless winners here in the past. They won overall driverless, was it last year or 2 years ago?
I think it might be 2 years ago.
But of course, past events, that's nice for the show, but doesn't get you anywhere for this event. Everyone starts from zero.
And maybe, Matti, we can commend Napoli one more time. Again, this was the last driverless combustion car that we will see at Formula Süd in Germany. Unfortunately, they didn't quite get to the finish, but they got very close. So well done, Napoli. Congratulations to you. Still going to get quite a few points. And well, can't quite find the right word, but a way to wave goodbye to combustion driverless here at FSG. Of course, we'll still be seeing some combustion cars later on today. Once again, at 12:45, from 12:45 until 2 o'clock, we'll be seeing the historic autocross from the combustion vehicles of years past. Some past champions, some past participants here at FSG. Going to be a very impressive event. Make sure to tune in live or into the live stream on the Formula Süd Germany YouTube channel. Napoli getting a great round of applause, I'm sure, from their team members and from some other bystanders as well. Well deserved, as Augsburg is preparing for their run. Orange lights on the Augsburg car. The timer is started. The start signal is given. And off they go. A little wheel spin off the line, but very quick through the straight. Clipping a couple of cones on the first corner, but navigating the track very briskly so far.
Very ambitious start from the Augsburg team. I'm really curious about their first lap time. Does this look quicker or slower than the Göteborg car? They navigated the hairpin cleanly without hitting any of the cones.
Yes, Steve and Daisy both still standing. And it feels like it's quicker than Chalmers. I'm not sure. Martin, maybe you can check the timing. Under 30 seconds.
Wow.
Definitely the fastest time by quite a margin that we've seen today. Hitting one cone there that I can see, but still avoiding Steve and Daisy in the sharp right-hander.
And I like the driving style. It's super smooth. It's they take really nice lines, nice braking, clear acceleration out of the corner. Impressive stuff from the Augsburg team.
And I think the first team we see that accelerates for the entire duration of the straight. It doesn't seem to be hitting any speed limits.
Exactly. The hairpin one more time. Clean, wow.
Yes, you can see why this team has been champions of driverless in the past here.
The 29.3, they are accelerating a little bit. Maybe they will get close to the time I was announcing, the 5 seconds quicker for a manual driver.
Yes, I think that half a second they won is by virtue of having a running start as opposed to going from a standstill. Let's see what they do on lap number 3. And again, the 29.3, so settling into a consistent pace, and it's a very good pace to settle in, so let's see if they can keep it up.
Another cone being hit. Is it on the track? I can't quite see. Egor, maybe you can see it clearer.
I think it is right on the edge of the track. I see 4 yellow cones, 2 pairs of 2 bunched up over there, but I don't think it should cause any trouble.
Again, very consistent lap times. 29.2 this time round. Still navigating its way perfectly, even though some of the cones are lying around next to the track. They're even starting to hit the bumps. Just shows how much speed they are carrying with them. Another 29.2.
And I'm very impressed with how they take that sharp right-hander. It seems that they have a constant turning radius throughout the whole corner. They don't even slow down for it. And yes, indeed, you can hear the front wing or the underside of the body scraping against the bumpy track. And again, at 29.2, within 100th of a second, incredible consistency.
Yeah, and watch one of the next corners here, so they're taking the chicane cautiously, but then this one is going super quick in this corner, even sliding a bit during braking. Wow.
It's speeding up.
Ever so slightly. Shall we get a time under the 29? Will we break the 29 barrier? I really hope so.
And while Augsburg is doing their track drive, I can see another car in the queue. I cannot see the colors of the car nor the number.
I think I know which car it is.
Yes, I see a missing nose cone and I see a missing front wing, so I think we can all hazard a guess as to who it is.
I think this is the last lap for the Augsburg car. Engineers are anxiously looking, but they are laughing, so they seem to be happy.
The car will have to stop within 30 meters of the start-finish line on track. It does so successfully.
So they did indeed complete the track drive, but there is a little bit of confusion.
Yes, I see a flashing blue light, not a solid blue light, as you would expect.
But they did stop properly in the right area. So they'll probably have a slight discussion with the officials. But yeah, great performance of the Augsburg team nonetheless. Super quick times, really nice driving lines. Very impressed. Only hit a few cones and they kept Steve and Davey alive. The two cones there at the back on the very tight hairpin.
So just a penalty, no DNF.
And we're just getting confirmation from the officials that the car did not stop in the correct state, but as it did complete the whole track drive and it did come to a safe stop, they will not get a DNF. This will count as a valid run, so congratulations Augsburg. They will incur a small penalty for not finishing in the correct state, but nonetheless a fantastic time and a fantastic result for the Augsburg team. Congratulations.
Exactly, a well-deserved round of applause there from the grandstands. They do, of course, still need to go to post-scrutiny and check some data in order to see if it was really valid. But so far, from what we can see and what we can hear from the officials, this seems to be a valid track drive with a small penalty, maybe. And this is counting without the cones. This is the best track drive we have seen so far. So in the distance I see the Karlsruhe car, I think. So they are missing a nose cone. And the reason for that is yesterday they did the driverless autocross. And unfortunately, right after the start, the car veered to the left. And it did not stop in time and hit the barriers quite hard. They spent over half an hour getting the car out of the barriers. And it was quite a lot of damage. But it seems like they managed to repair most of it, and they are here back for the track drive. That is impressive work.
Yeah, it's fantastic to see them back here. Again, they set the fastest time on the driverless skid pad, a 5-second dead. And with the driver, they only set, well, set a 5.1, which is still a very impressive time. But I think even more impressive that the driverless system was able to beat the driver, yes.
Definitely. It's great to see here that finally the driverless cars are approaching the time set by the manual drivers. That means that they are definitely maturing. The competition is maturing as well. We see a lot more cars participating in driverless events. And I hope to see this trend in the future as well. And maybe in 5 or 10 years' time, everything will be driverless and we'll see super quick times from the driverless cars.
And I think our words might have been a little bit premature about the state of the Karlsruhe car, Matti, because I see the nose cone is now back on it. So I heard just from one of the track marshals that they had simply removed it to do some final checks to make sure that everything on the car is all right. But I think it will be running in a very complete state.
I cannot see if they have a front wing or not. I do know there was, in a lot of pieces the front wing. I saw a few pictures of it. I think I'm hearing that they do not have a front wing, so similar to the Delft car. And they also destroyed part of the front wing during skid pad and then reappeared without a front wing.
Yes, and I heard from some team members that Karlsruhe had actually had some trouble with their front wing during testing before FSG. And they have some very fine, very intricate elements on it, and they were able to rebuild it in just 3 days from scratch. So they've definitely shown that they can rebuild an intricate piece of carbon fiber very quickly. So maybe we'll still see them run with a front wing later today or tomorrow.
So of course they had to go through scrutineering again. I just heard that they just passed scrutineering again and came here just in time this morning. It's only 10 o'clock, but I think they had a hell of a morning.
Yes, as it is 10 o'clock, we have 1 hour left on the driverless track drive window, even under an hour now, 54 minutes. So if there are any other teams that have not run yet that still want to put in an attempt, they should be making their way over to the track very soon.
Yeah, so you mentioned that also the Aachen car did not do a run here yet. I saw some impressive stuff from them. It looks like a super fast car, and the driverless system really wants to push the throttle. So I'm very curious to see them here on track as well.
Yes, I think they were one of the faster acceleration times yesterday, with the driver included.
So of course, without front wing, your car will be a bit more understeered, definitely on the high-speed sections. Luckily for them, here on this track drive, there's not that much high-speed action going on. Although the one corner there, where even the Augsburg car was twitching under braking, that's actually quite quick. And also here, the first corner, Augsburg took it quite quickly, so they might struggle a little bit without having the front wing.
But I think that first quick corner you mentioned is also where Augsburg was scraping their front wing along the ground, so maybe not having one is actually going to be a benefit. About what? And maybe while we have a few quiet seconds here on the track, I'd like to remind all of the teams that have not done so yet, please fill in the commentary form. We rely on the information you provide us quite a lot, especially during the endurance tomorrow. There's going to be a lot of time for us to fill. And we have decided internally that if information is not provided to us, we will most likely end up talking about Delft the entire day. So if you'd like to avoid that, please fill in the commentary form, submit your fun facts, give us something to talk about, something to praise your team for.
Meanwhile, I'm standing here with the Karlsruhe car. It is indeed running without the front wing. They are still preparing the EBS system, I think. I see the driver fiddling around with the pedal box. So the EBS system is a system that the driverless cars use to do an emergency brake. So when the ASR, the autonomous safety responsible, hits the button. System responsible. Also safety responsible, right? So when he hits that button, the car is shut down, so the electrical system is shut down. And then, of course, the car needs to brake mechanically. Normally, you have a driver in there that can push the brake pedal and create some pressure in the mechanical brakes. But in the autonomous car, they do need a different system. So I do see a nice big can of compressed air here, and that is used to kind of charge the EBS system. And if it's triggered, it can create enough pressure to lock all wheels and stop the car in a safe manner. The driver is getting back in the Karlsruhe car, so I think we might expect him anytime soon here, making themselves ready for at the track drive track.
And while you were there, Mati, did you see any other cars in the background making their way out of the pits, or is it still looking a little empty?
I did not see them. I'll have a closer look in the paddock itself. Maybe I can spot something. No, I cannot spot any other cars joining us at this moment. There is a nice Porsche GT3 RS, of course, but I don't think it's going to participate here on the dynamic events. There is still, of course, 45 minutes left in the track drive, so they still do have a little bit of time. But as you can see, it does take quite a while for the cars to be checked by the officials and
start before the gong. So hopefully we'll be able to avoid that this time around, not because there are no teams participating, but because all of the teams will make their way here in a timely fashion and have plenty of time to start their runs.
So there are two more cars that did an autocross lap and that we did not see yet. That's the team from Aachen and also the team from Karlsruhe, who is currently making its way to the track drive. A big round of applause. Well deserved. They managed to fix their car after the drama from yesterday. It seems to only be lacking a front wing. It is a great achievement to get the car ready again. But of course, getting the car ready for the event, that's only one part of the equation. In the end, you still need to perform. And I'm very curious to see how the Karlsruhe team can perform on this track drive. Some of the driverless teams have some of their sensors on their front wing. I really hope for Karlsruhe that was not the case. I do see kind of probably the LiDAR system below the T-cell on the main hoop, so to me that's a good sign. Unless they had to replace it, of course, from the front wing. So fingers crossed that no driverless sensors were harmed during that incident.
Orange lights are on, T-cell light is active. We are about to hear the go signal being given.
So there seems to be some kind of problem. I do see a blue flashing light.
As I saw the ASR press the abort button.
So it's a bit of a 50-50 situation now, if they have been given the start signal or not. So it does seem that the officials are giving a little bit of leeway to the Karlsruhe team, and it seems that they can try again to start their car. So the reason for this, you have some time to prepare the car. If you can do that within the correct time, you can come here under our tent. Then at some point you can decide to start the car. Then you have 30 seconds. And then it starts to count as a valid run. It was not 100% clear if the go signal was given or not. I think in the end the officials decided that it was not given yet. And they are given another opportunity to start the car. Also part of the reason is that the queue in the track drive is empty, so we're not blocking other cars.
I see the official checking his stopwatch carefully, looking at that 2-minute time limit.
There's also a nice heli flying over us right now. Probably part of the media crew here at FSG making some nice shots. That is of course not true, but they do have some drones At least one of them I saw flying yesterday on the acceleration. And they made quite some amazing shots that we will certainly see probably on Instagram, but also during the award ceremony. And I think during the autocross we'll definitely, if they're allowed to use the drone, they can definitely shoot some nice footage. So it looks like the Karlsruhe engineer needs the key back from the official in order to start the car.
And I heard some questions being asked if it would be possible for them to leave the track right now and immediately rejoin the queue, but not sure what the outcome of that question was. But we see the rest of the team joining us now behind the barrier.
And look at how much people assembled there behind the fences. Everyone tensely looking the outcome of this track drive. Will they be able to drive? Will they be able to successfully complete some laps? Hopefully we can see in a few minutes.
Final checks being done with the laptop, and the orange lights are on. I believe I heard the start signal being given and the 30-second timer was started.
I do see Christian with its stopwatch indeed. I hear some noises.
Flashing
and away we go.
And off it goes. And some great cheers from the Karlsruhe team, well deserved after the accident yesterday.
Yeah, this is already an amazing performance by them. Repairing the car, getting it to track drive, and even surviving the first hairpin without killing any cones.
Perhaps not having a front wing helps there with not clipping Stephen Daisy. Very nicely on the first lap, not a single cone touched, and continuing on to the second.
And that's a 46.3, so right in the mix with the other teams that were driving around those lap times as well. You did see at the start there was a bit of wheel spin, and I'm not 100% sure if all the wheels were, or all the motors were doing its job, so maybe they're only driving on 3 motors. That's just speculating, of course. Meanwhile, we see the Karlsruhe car again having its way very cleanly through the super tight hairpin. Yeah, and I cannot emphasize enough what a performance this is from the Karlsruhe team. The car was literally in the barriers here last night at 7 o'clock. And now they're here making a super clean track drive. They haven't hit a single cone as far as I can see.
You're hearing a little wheel spin there, I feel like, or maybe a little bit sliding.
Yeah, at the start they had a little bit of wheel spin here as well, so maybe there's a little bit of imbalance still. Of course, you have the 4 motors, and if they're not all working in sync, you do get a little bit of wheel spin from time to time. But I mean, so far, great run. It does break across the line, and the car thinks its mission is completed. Still, a very well-deserved round of applause for a Karlsruhe team.
I believe
Three
three
or four.
laps they have completed.
And they will get some points for that. Every lap completed counts. But I do see a lot of smiles here with the team members from, and I do hear a gong as well, not sure what that indicates. Yeah, a lot of smiles here with the Karlsruhe team. They can be so happy. And they almost crossed the timing line, that's forbidden zone. So yeah, they are happy with their performance, and they can be definitely.
I just heard over the radio that this is a confirmed DNF for the Karlsruhe contestant. And the gong appears to be because there are no more cars that plan on participating. We see the track marshals being instructed to pick up all of their equipment. I believe this might be it for the driverless track drive. Some cars that we would have hoped to see, we unfortunately did not get to, least of all the car from Aachen. But as the driverless track drive is now complete, the next event that we'll be preparing for is the historic autocross. And that, once again, will be starting at 12:45 and until 2 o'clock. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and listening along, both on the track and at home. And we will see you in a little bit. Still a lot of action to come. Thank you for joining, and see you later.
Yeah, before we completely shut off, I would like to do a little rundown of the times. I'm trying to get them on my mobile screen as we speak. I need one more second. I can only see the best lap times here, not the total time, but based on that, so we in first place, or at least the best track drive we have seen here without any cones, without any penalties, is Augsburg. They did 29. Then second best was Göteborg Chalmers team. After that, there's the Munich car, but they only did 2 laps. So I'm looking at best lap times here, that's why I'm confused. So in third place it was actually the Budapest car, fourth place the Lisbon car, and those are the only 4 that completed the track drive completely. Napoli did 9 laps, so they almost completed it. It was a really impressive run. And then we have the KIT car that did, here it says 4 laps, but I think they completed only 3, and they started their 4th lap. And then we have Munich with 2 laps, and Ulm also with, or Munich with 1 lap completed, I should say, and Ulm also with 1 lap completed.
Yes, KIT had started their 4th lap, but then one of their team members on the way to retrieving the car triggered the timing loop again. So I think they had a blistering 4th lap of 22 seconds, but I'm sure the timekeeping people will make sure to clear that out, and we'll have the official results, I believe, on Sunday.
Probably. Thank you very much for all the support. It was great to have you here on the track drive, and we see each other soon at 12:45 for the historic autocross.